as candidates gear up for 2024, we are learning a record number of Americans are not siding with party lines. A new Gallup poll finds nearly half of all Americans see themselves as politically independent, meaning these independents outnumber Americans who identify with either major party. Gallup also finding millennials and Gen Z are more likely to identify as independent, and even Gen X, who are ages 42 to 57, maintain a higher level of independence compared to older generations. Historically, as adults get older, they are more likely to identify as a Republican or a Democrat. That is changing. So joining us now, Julia Manchester, national politics reporter with her partners at The Hill. Julia, thanks for being with us. I know you've gone over this poll. You've looked at the numbers here. And this is essentially illustrating what a lot of Americans think, right? Most people don't identify with either party, and it's not by a close margin. What is behind this seemingly disillusionment, I guess, with both the political the Republican and the Democratic political parties?
Yeah, Nicole, it comes down to millennial voters and Gen Z voters in particular. We are seeing that these voters don't particularly like being aligned with a particular party going forward. So they identify as independents. However, in identifying as independents, they still lean to one side or the other. So in 2022, we saw those Gen Z voters in particular and millennials lean heavily to the left, making a huge difference for Democrats. So, going into 2024, we're going to see Democrats want to galvanize those younger millennial and Generation Z voters. However, I've chatted with the Republicans who also want to galvanize those voters in their favor. So I don't think it's that these voters are just ignoring, labels and such. They're just deciding to lean one way or another.
So let's talk about this Gen X millennials, who are not only identifying as independent, but as they age are maintaining, that self-label there, that they are an independent. How does that differ from the past?
Look, with these voters, the Gen X or older millennials, look, I think they are different from Gen Z voters. They prefer being a part of that, under that umbrella of a party. So I think in this poll, once again, it's the Generation Z voters and millennials that are driving this. I think the older voters are starting to become disillusioned with both parties, yes. However, they're still very much attached to an idea of being under an umbrella.
All right, and for our viewers, we do want to, there's a little bit of a delay here. That's why there's a little delay when she answers. More than likely, the last question here for you, Julia. Another sign of changing times in politics, there's new data that shows a major shift in party affiliations for blue-collar workers. More blue-collar workers are migrating to the GOP, while Democrats now represent 9 of the 10 wealthiest congressional districts. That's the Dems. So how does this change how each party strategizes going forward as we head into 2024?
Yeah, Nicole, this is so fascinating to me because we know that starting in 2016, we saw President Trump very much target those blue-collar voters in states like Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, traditionally, with the exception of Ohio, blue-leaning states. And then we saw this Rust Belt become very much part of this political battlefield that we've seen in 2018, 2020, 2022, and now 2024. So I think this tracks with what we've been seeing with, how Republican candidates have been trying to build up their voting base among these blue-collar voters.
Yeah, and then the strategy will more than likely be changing. All right, Julia, thank you for that. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.